So basically, my name is Matt Singers, and I run some cool businesses. So one of them is a management consultancy company where I basically help primarily online business owners really grow and scale, primarily to better management. So basically managing their staff better, finding the right staff and all that kind of thing. Then I run a big outsourcing company in the Philippines, where we have about 130 people right now. And then I run SEO, sort of media publishing business, where we do a bunch of SEO and affiliate and ads and stuff like that. So a little bit all over. My first SEO website was built in 2007. So I've generally been in the world of SEO for 13, 14 years or something like that. So I've been around for a while. I've spoken at many conferences, and I like connecting and helping many of the big, good SEO guys. So I work with many of the big guys. So people like Matt Diggity and Kurt Phillip, and worked with the team at Ahrefs and so on. So I've worked with a lot of people, and it's always a lot of fun. So in terms of COVID and how that kind of impacts the whole landscape, right? I think worldwide, obviously, some changes have happened. Some industries have been pretty untouched, but many industries have been very impacted by COVID overall, right? And I think fundamentally, the key challenge and the key change that's happening is definitely that, work from home in majority of places become a lot more popular. Which means, if you take the US as an example, many people is moving out of California and New York and so on, and often back to their home states or smaller areas they're from, because they no longer need to be in a huge city, or many of them don't longer need to be in a huge city to be able to get the best jobs, because right now the best jobs is really available anywhere, right? And I think particularly for people also, other way in the world, right? Like we've seen outsourcing grow significantly, because people have, like, for many years, people have been sitting around, business owners have been like, oh, I need someone in an office. I can't have them working somewhere else than I am, and so on. But now they've been forced into it, and they've actually realized that it works really well, right? So in many cases, that opens up for a lot more outsourcing, and generally, particularly Eastern Europe as well. Like there's a lot of people now getting work that they maybe wouldn't have gotten a year ago, just because companies are really broadening their viewpoint. They're really opening their eyes, and they're starting to see that there's a lot more opportunities outside their own city and so on and so forth, right? So I think that's definitely a huge impact from a COVID standpoint. And likewise, a lot of companies, like many local businesses, have been very depending on traffic, like foot traffic. So people literally walking by, coming into the store and so on. So I see definitely a lot of companies now investing significantly more into both SEO and PPC, because, they're starting to realize they need an online presence as well. Just having a physical location, if people can't physically walk in, or if you can't have that many people in your store, just having the physical location is often not enough, right? So you see a lot of companies investing quite heavily in SEO and PPC and so on at the moment as well.
So what's the most prospective trend for SEO to invest in their efforts to get the better clients?
I think more and more people start understanding the ROI calculations, right? SEOs are often difficult to sell because you're selling a result down the road. Whereas when you're selling PPC, you're selling a result tomorrow or next week or next month, right? But I think, again, the more educated business owners gets, the easier it is for SEOs to actually sell and promote their services, right? Because fundamentally, they're putting themselves in a position, in a better position. And I would say as well, from a SEO sort of trending perspective, I think overall, a lot of SEOs are doing what Google has actually been looking for a long time. So I think if you look at the content that's getting produced today, in average, compared to what was done 5 years ago, the quality of the content have significantly increased on average, right? Which is obviously Google's goal, right? Google want to rank good content. Now, are they perfect? Absolutely not. But I think despite what most SEOs want to say. I think most SEOs nowadays that are very successful actually do high quality content, right? So I think that's one of the big trends that have sort of changed over the last couple of years, where focus on quality and content of the content have significantly played in. Obviously, still a lot of SEO stuff, still a lot of links, still a lot of unpaged and technical and all that stuff. But I would say from a trend perspective, definitely increasing in content quality is big.
Most SEOs, which are really great in SEO, they are not such good entrepreneurs. So they don't know lots about business and how to run and how can they start.
So the fundamental, and this is not just SEOs, but it's more extreme in the SEO world. But when you look at most, let's say even consulting and freelancers and stuff, they often start out and it's just themselves. They're just themselves, they're doing the work themselves and so on. And the problem is the mindset that you have to do to be a good freelancer is such a different mindset than it takes to be a business owner. So the problem is most people spend a couple of years as freelancers and, suddenly they manage to charge more money, have more clients, and, they're making good money, but they're in this freelancer mindset. They're all in the, oh no, I don't want to pay $5 to this guy to do something because I can save $5, right? So they're very much in this sort of, individual contributor mindset. So they're very much thinking about, how can I save a little bit of money? And they're not necessarily taking business decisions. So they're not looking at ROI as much. They're not looking at, how do I do the right things? And delegation fundamentally is probably one of the biggest areas where most SEOs struggle, right? Again, the problem is when you're used to being the expert, it's often hard to let go. And the problem is even SEOs that start hiring staff, what happens is they still have all decisions come to them, right? So what happens if like, let's say you've gone from 0 to 50 or whatever in SEO skills. Now, if you hire someone that starts at level 0 and, you teach them your process and stuff, so they grow a little bit. The problem is when you keep being the end goal for all decisions, if you keep asking people to double check with you and all that sort of stuff, the problem is they will grow slowly, but you actually grow more because you get to struggle with all the difficult problems. You get to analyze all the most difficult problems. And the problem is that increases your skill set. Now, the thing is, if you want to be a business owner, you're not looking to increase your SEO skill set. You're looking to increase the SEO skill set of the people you work with, right? And the problem is as long as you keep being the expert, as long as you keep being much better than everyone else, one, you don't have the time to run a business. And two, fundamentally, you are not a business owner per se, right? And that's the biggest challenge and really the biggest mindset to change, right? And one of the big problems, I mean, if you see people running an agency, right, they often start out and they're like, yeah, I run an SEO agency. What do you do? Oh, we do SEO for everyone anywhere, right? And the problem is when you go and ask them and like, well, can you not just hire someone to replace you? Oh no, because we're doing so much different stuff and I'm the only one with the skill set. I'm the only one who can do e-commerce and local and affiliate and everything everywhere. I'm the only one that knows it, right? And the problem is that that's not a good business, right? So again, if you want to run a business, you ideally want to specialize on a particular process in a particular niche, right? So again, there is quite a few companies that have been successful, for example, focusing on local. But if you really go down and focus and say, we focus on local businesses, particularly dentists, right? If all you do is work with dentist clients, it makes it significantly easier for you to develop solid workflows, solid processes, and repeatable processes that can be done again and again. And on top of that, you also have the huge benefit that you put yourself in a situation where you understand the client. Because if you have had 5 clients that have all been in dentistry, you start understanding the expressions, the language they use, the type of clients they work with, and you basically start understanding all those things, right? Which makes you a much, much better SEO, because if you actually understand the clients or what the website they're working with, you will get better results, right? So fundamentally, like when you start a business, you really want to niche down, and particular for process. And just saying you do SEO is not niching down, right? But you really want to look at the process flow. So for example, you have people who start a content agency and say, we do just 1,000 words informational content, and this is the price. Now, if you build a very, very narrow process like that, there's a whole bunch of things that happens. One is it becomes significantly easier to improve on the process you have because it's very narrow, it's very specific. So if that's all you do, working with your team, working with the staff you hire and saying, how can we improve it? How can we build a workflow that's better? How can we get the best result by doing just this one thing, right? And the whole point is that when you are able to optimize, when you're able to do better, you're often much more competitive, or alternatively, you can actually charge higher margins, because very much, so many SEO companies I work with, they're like, yeah, we charge our companies like $1,000 a month. I'm like, how much do you spend to fulfill that? And often they don't know. And even when you look at the numbers, they spend somewhere between $600 to $800 to fulfill it. So they're effectively making like $200, $300, $400 per client per month, right? Now, and the big problem is most of the time people don't know, right? Like most of the time people have clients they're losing money on, because if they have 10 clients, they each charge $1,000, right? Some of the clients will take a lot more work than others. And because they're not tracking the hours and stuff, when I actually go in and work with them, they end up starting looking and saying, oh, actually, we're spending $1,200 in labor on this client that's paying us $1,000 a month. That does not make a lot of sense, right? So again, like the benefit with really niching down is you can control, you can measure your cost, and you can really perfect your processes. And someone that have done this really well, Jonathan Keatbush, or SEO Butler, is someone that he started out with very narrow process, right? And they keep adding when they own something, when they really feel comfortable, then they add something else, right? And they literally have a different team, different people dealing with it and so on. But they keep adding new processes. And fundamentally, from a business standpoint, that's what you want to be doing, right? So you want to own a process. Now, there's two ways you can scale. You can scale up the way, or you can scale out the way. And if you're looking out the way, like if you let's say you're doing web development for dentists, right? If you then say, okay, now we've mastered web development for dentists, now we want to do web development for doctors. Now, the problem with doing it out the way, you can definitely grow your business like that, but generally when you're growing your business, often the best choices is to find ways to make more money from your existing clients. So if you're building websites only for dentists, if you go in and then add a next process when you've mastered that says, we also do SEO for dentists. The point is that you then don't need to do the same level of client acquisition again. You basically end up in a position where you can sell the same people and charge the same people much more money. Right. And particularly in the SEO and web dev and whatever industry, like sales is often not what people are good at. Right. So when you're not good at sales, you definitely want to try and charge more money to the same people. Right. So the key thing, again, don't start out with it. Don't say we build website, we do SEO, we do PPC, we do this thing, because the problem is when you try and do too much, you jack of all trades, master of none. Right. You're not able to build and scale the processes very well, because you're jumping around from time to time, right? So that's some of the key thing. The last thing is probably in terms of client acquisition. So most SEOs is kind of like, oh, I need money, let's go get clients, and then they get a couple of clients, and then they're like, okay, now we have clients, let's go and fulfill, and then they spend months and months trying to fulfill for these clients, totally forgetting about new business. And then at some point when those clients are fulfilled, they're like, oh, now I need money, let's do new business, right? Whereas really when you're a business owner, you want to establish consistent lead generation tactics. You want to have specific sort of strategies and framework of consistently generating leads, right? And sometimes people are like, oh, I'm getting too many leads, right? And there's no such thing, because when you get too many leads, there's two things you can do. One, you can be much more picky with your clients and pick the ones that 100% fits into your framework. Because if you look at most businesses today, the clients that take 80% of the time It's clients that don't fit the framework, but they want something extra, they want something more, and they end up being the ones that takes, 80% of your time. So you can be more picky if you have more leads, and two, you can increase your prices, right? So no matter what kind of agency you have, you can never have too many leads, because if you have too many leads, you just increase the prices. And here's the thing. Most people think it's about charging the least and being competitive on price. But here's the thing, right? The more you charge, the more you can deliver. If you have a client and you charge them $1,000 a month, you only have a certain scope to actually deliver results, because you don't want to spend $10,000 delivering for them, right? Now, if you have the same client, instead of paying you $1,000, paying you $5,000 a month, you can afford to do a lot more work, and you can afford to invest a lot more to make that client successful. So everything else being equal, if you charge a client $5,000, the likelihood that you deliver an amazing result is significantly better than if you charge them $1,000, right? And here's the thing, most people want amazing results. Like a lot of people's like, oh, but I only charge you $1,000, so you can't expect too much. Well, guess what? People are expecting a lot. They go and hire SEO. They don't know SEO. They have high expectations, right? So again, sorry, that was just a comment saying 5,000 USD in Ukraine is unreal. I'll promise you there is businesses paying $5,000 a month in SEO. That definitely is. I'm not necessarily saying there's a million of them, but there definitely is companies. There's big international companies in Ukraine that is definitely spending that amount of money. Now, are you very likely to get them? Likely not, right? So here's the thing. Let's say you want to have a client like Samsung as a client, right? Samsung is a big international company. And if you go to them and say, we charge 5,000, we charge 10,000 for SEO, they look at you and they laugh and they don't even think about you a second time, right? Because normally when they buy SEO, they pay 200, 500, $1 million maybe to hire a company to do it. Right? Now, here's the thing. When you're always charging bottom dollar, you're always going to have the small companies, right? One of the things that you realize is the more you charge, the better clients you get in general. The more you charge, the higher level clients are coming after you, right? Because the problem is when you have a $1,000 a month client, they will tell all their $1,000 a month client friends about you. When you have a $10,000 a month client, they will tell all their $10,000 a month client friends about you, right? So the problem is often very much in mindset, because if you've always said $1,000 to people walking into a meeting and say, it'll cost $5,000 to work with me, that is difficult for most human beings, even really good sales guys. But the mindset and what you can actually deliver is so important, right? And that's why, again, niching down is super important, because again, the better you know the vertical, the better you know the results, the better you have specific case studies. Like if you can say, I have this dentist in Kiev, and here's a dentist I'm gonna work with in Krakow, I can show them specifically what I've done with the dentist in Kiev, and I can say, well, here's the very obvious result. This dentist came to me, they were making, I don't know, $50,000 a month, and I worked with them for 9 months. Now they're making $75,000 per month, right? So we've increased their monthly income by 25K by working with us. One of the good examples, like I have a good Indian friend that run a local SEO business, and he primarily targets Australia, but he never ever charges less than $5,000 a month, right? Now, most Indian people will never charge $5,000 a month because it's an amount that they're very uncomfortable with. And not because they're Indian, but again, just like Eastern Europe, it's like, oh, it's scary, it's whatever, right? But the whole thing, and by the way, it's the same in Western Europe, right? Some of the people in those conversations is probably people who have moved up the ladder, but even the people moving up the ladder charging 10,000 per client, they should maybe be charging 100 or 200, right? Like, again, you'll see people, and there is people in the groups who are charging significant money, and you're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars for SEO, right? That are working with some of the biggest companies in the world. And realistically, they're often not necessarily better at SEO, but they're much better at client management, expectation setting, sales, right? That's the key things. And again, this is where most SEOs struggle, because those are three things they're not good at. They're not good at communicating, particularly to other human beings. They're not particularly good at sales and selling themselves and so on. And they're not really, they're not necessarily good at taking the business angle on things. They always take the SEO angle. They're like, oh, I'll get you 5 keywords, or I'll get you this traffic and so on. And people don't care. Like most of the clients that I work with, right, and particularly like a local SEO business, very, very common. And one of the things we do is we usually scrap the report they have that they're sending clients, make a new one. And it's a very simple report with 2 numbers on it. You paid me X amount, I made you X amount. That's what business owners care about. And they don't give a shit if they're now ranking for 5,200 keywords in top 100, or if they're ranking average or whatever. They don't care. Business owners in general care about money. They want to make money. Now, again, the second thing, most people that are even the ones doing a great job are very bad at upselling clients and charging them more. Like, how many people have either started charging a client $1,000 and ever moved that up to 2,000? In the SEO world, it's like less than 1%, right? Now, here's the way you do it, right? You start out with clients and say, we have clients that pay a lot more, but I prefer to start out at $1,000. This is usually a good level where we can prove to you that we can make you a great return. And then as we go down the road, as we show that what we can do for $1,000, we can then increase the cost over time and therewith make you more money. Now, if you tell a client, you paid me $1,000 and I made you $10,000. When you do that a couple of months in a row and you say, right, you've paid me $1,000, I've made you 10,000. Let's up that, right? What about we start investing $3,000 a month every month, and we'll make you more money. And you might not make them 30, but you maybe make them 20, 25, but it's still a very, very good investment from their side. Now, when you manage your clients like that, you can not just grow your clients, but you can also keep delivering better results because you set clear expectations. And yes, there's a few, I call them SEO clients, that know a little bit about SEO and is curious and so on and so forth. But majority of business owners are not SEO guys, right? If they care about traffic, it's because you have told them about traffic and they have, figured that their mind have basically been aimed at traffic because you've been telling them about it. The numbers you want to focus on is how much are you paying me and how much money am I making you? And again, from a case study standpoint, right? When you can say, well, I work with this dentist, I charged them X, I made them Y over, more than a year. When you can show other dentists that, they're like, ooh, I would like that. Here's my payment. And then again, when you have some good case studies, you can start higher up the tree and say, well, all our other clients started at 1,000 and then went to 3,000 and then 5,000, whatever. What about we just say the minimum is 3,000 to start? And some people will say no, and that's okay, because you're looking for the one that have enough budget to invest. And that's basically how you manage to climb up the tree, right? But many SEOs, because they don't know how to increase prices, it makes it very difficult for them to again justify. But the whole bunch is, even if you have some low clients at $1,000, if you manage to increase what you charge them over time, and suddenly you charge them $5,000, you become much more comfortable telling other clients $5,000 is our price.
You mentioned that when you are making business out of SEO, you'd better invest in your people and make them better SEOs, and invest in yourself in terms of becoming a better owner of the business and entrepreneur. But is there any way where I can develop as an SEO and delegate business processes to someone else?
Yeah, I mean, you can hire a CEO of your company. I mean, there's many businesses out there where there is a very talented. I mean, that could happen a few ways. Like sometimes there's a business owner who is the CTO of a business. So for example, a lot of app companies and so on, like the person who's developing the app and passionate about development, they're not necessarily the CEO, right? And again, you don't always need a partner who's the CEO. It could be someone hired in. I mean, just because you own the business doesn't necessarily mean you have to be the owner or the CEO of the business, right? So you can definitely hire people into those kind of roles, and you can make partnerships with great people that you know and trust very, very deeply. So no, absolutely not. I mean, if what you love doing is SEO and that's all you want to do, totally. Now again, here's the thing: not everyone want to grow a big business, right? This is also important to understand. Like, not everyone are better off working for themselves. I mean, particularly in the SEO industry, many SEOs are actually better if they're given direction, if they're being told like, I want this, I need so on and so forth, right? A lot of SEOs are actually better that way because their personality, like they're not necessarily super proactive, they're not super driven, and they're not necessarily just caring about money. For a lot of SEOs, it's more about the game of SEO and becoming better and learning and so on. Then a lot of SEO is not necessarily that money focused, and if that's the case, if you're not that, if you just enjoy doing SEO, I mean, there's no harm for you working for someone else. Like, I know in the sort of entrepreneurial community, there's a lot of sort of shaming on people's like, oh, you have a job and all that kind of stuff, right? But again, if that's what makes you happy, that's not a bad thing. Now again, if you are really good at SEO, you can probably find a job that makes you more comfortable, or where you may be a partner or a part owner of a business or something. And like, I know a very good SEO that ended up partnering with a handyman in the UK, and the SEO was basically, I don't want to talk with clients, I just want to do SEO. And the handy guy was like, well, if you can bring me a lot of clients, we can build a big business. So they basically built a business where the SEO just was responsible for the marketing and the website and all the stuff, and the handyman initially was taking care of all the sort of workers and so on, but eventually he moved on to be the CEO. But they made a lot of money together, right? But lots of options, right? And again, like, you don't all need to own an empire. But again, most of the people that I'm working with is people who want to build a bigger business, right? And therefore, like, if you want to do those things, then you definitely need to learn the skill. But fundamentally, one of the key things, right, is that most people come to me and say, I don't like managing people. And that's a bit like when people come to me and say, I don't like playing guitar. I'm like, have you ever tried to play guitar? Have you ever learned it? Have you ever had lessons? They're like, no, but I don't like it, right? And very, very often, most of the SEOs I work with totally change the tune, right? Because management is a skill just like SEO, right? Like, people are even more unpredictable than Google, believe it or not. But like, learning to manage people well, it's not a significantly different skill set from SEO, for example. Like, it's learning certain processes, it's learning certain workflows. It's just like SEO. It's like tweaking and improving, and how can I improve my process so that people don't leave me? How can I improve my process so they get better? And all these kind of things. And the thing is, for most people, like, even in large companies, I mean, I've worked in Xerox and IBM and like very, very large companies, and the level of management training that exists, let's just put it politely, it's not very good in most companies, right? And that's the thing. Most people in the SEO world don't know how to manage people because they've never been taught, right? And like, so I have a management course, and it's literally like 5 hours worth of content. And it's life-changing for most of the business owners, right? And it's not life-changing just because they learn everything and it's suddenly perfect after 5 hours, but it's about changing the mindset, right? It's about learning the basics. Just like if you learn a new language, it sucks learning a new language until you speak the basics, and then you keep speaking the basics until you add more and more vocabulary, and at some point you then know another language and you're comfortable with, right? But it's the same with management. If you don't know the basics, if you just randomly like, oh, well, try hire some random human being and I don't know what to do with them, like, yeah, management sucks, just like any other skill in the world. Like, the first time you sat down and looked at SEO, most people weren't like, oh, this is super cool. Most people were like, oh, that sounds very complex and that's a lot of things, and that must be very difficult, right? But the whole thing is, when you keep learning and you keep becoming better, then you become a much better SEO. And I mean, by nature, I'm just as detail oriented and just as nerdy as most SEOs I know, right? But I've Beside doing SEO and learning SEO, I've spent a lot of time and effort learning management, and I don't see the two being significantly different. I see management. I mean, when you become a much better SEO, you can build bigger things, and you can generate things. But what I love about management is I can build businesses that achieve amazing things without having to do it myself, right? And for me, I love that. Like I love like the fact that we have 130 people in the Philippines. Like that's a lot of people we have helped get jobs that are decently paid, and that makes people happy, right? And they learn new skills and all this sort of stuff, and having that impact from a world standpoint is amazing.
Finally, when some SEO freelancer decides to develop and grow their business, where should they start? How should they start to hire people? What should they delegate first?
One of the first things, and this is really the first thing I teach in my course, is really understanding people and understanding people's behavior. Most SEOs, when they see a spreadsheet, it's a little bit like the Matrix. They get the numbers, they understand numbers. Like they don't need to see a graph to understand if the numbers are going up and down, right? Now, some people, when they look at a spreadsheet with 10 by 5 by 5 numbers, they get dizzy, right? They're like, ooh, that's a lot of numbers, right? That's not typical SEOs, right? So the first thing is really about understanding people so that you can put the right people in the right jobs. Like most of you have probably met an SEO and you're like, ooh, this guy or girl just doesn't get it, right? And it's often because if you're doing SEO, it's all about numbers, statistics, data, and so on, right? And if you're doing that, you have to have a logical mind, right? You have to have a mind that thinks logical and can handle looking at that kind of information, can look at that data, can make good decisions based on data and so on. And really understanding different people and their natural behavior is really, really important to pick the right people, right? So again, if you hire a sales guy, the problem for most SEOs is, most people in general hire people like themselves. So if you're a shy and quiet person, you tend to hire shy and quiet people. Now, if you need a salesperson and you hire shy and quiet people, that's often not the best thing to do, right? At the opposite end, if you are loud and outgoing and so on, and you only hire loud and outgoing people, but no one that actually knows how to work with data and sit down and nerd for some hours, like again, you're not going to be successful. So really, for me, the fundamental core skill with recruitment is the first step I always look at is really learning to understand people and who fits well. And sometimes, I mean, you can do it in different ways. So like giving people solid test tasks and actually watch them do it, right? Like, again, most people who are like, if you're looking for people to do sort of typical SEO tasks, like if you just look at how they operate within Excel, you can see very, very quickly, is this person going to cut it or not? Like, are they sitting and right clicking to copy paste something, or do they know how to use Control C, Control V, right? Like basic stuff like that. And fundamentally, when you see people doing test tasks, you'll often see how well they get that, right? Now, there's a lot more to it. There's a lot more in terms of motivation and so on. But fundamentally, that's a good place to start. But the key thing is when you hire people, it's about finding people with the right mindset and the right attitude. They don't necessarily need to be an SEO, because basically, even though we want to sit around as SEO and think we are the smartest people in the world and all this good stuff, like most individual tasks an SEO do is not particularly complex, right? Like most things we do as SEO, it's not particularly complex individually. Now, where SEOs become complex is the whole picture, right? But individually, most things are not too complex. So when you hire new people, like you're better finding someone who is really driven, really talented, and really want to, than hiring someone with 10 years experience, but is just there to pick up the paycheck every month, right? In most cases. So obviously, if you need a developer, you need someone who understands development, because you don't want to pay them 3 years before they figure out how to build a website, right? But everything else being equal, basically, attitude and mentality is generally the most important, right? So That's sort of in terms of the recruitment. In terms of delegation, again, I try and go by the processes, right? So fundamentally, that there's three things that I recommend people delegate. So one is things you hate doing. So if there's things you hate doing, it's probably things that you aren't necessarily doing particularly well. The second thing is things that are easy to do. And that's, again, like there's always some copy paste work, or there's always stuff that, someone getting paid a lot less money than you could be doing. So that's the second thing. And the third thing, and this one is the one that usually surprise people, is the things that take you the most time. If you spend 60% of your time doing link building, go hire someone to do link building, because if you spend 60% of your time, that's easily a full-time job, right? So that's basically sort of the three areas that I generally recommend people to start with. The next aspect, again, yes, when you're hiring the first person, maybe building the processes and so on is okay. Now, here's the way I like to do it. So I like to record videos of what I'm doing, handing it to someone, letting them do it for a period of time, and then asking that person to document the process. Here's why. No business owner have the time to write and update consistently 100 plus processes. And if you run a larger company, you will have a lot of processes. So in the online world, there's all this sort of, oh yeah, you should sit down, write out all the processes and do all the processes. But fundamentally, again, that's not, people who say that is not business owner types. That's detail-oriented people that, that are just wanting to duplicate what they do. Here's the thing. For people to become good, like you're good, they need to learn and they need to experiment. So the key things is, as I started with initially, is you need to give people ownership and responsibility and focus less on the process and more on the result. And here's why. That's how you learned. Right? So the way all you guys here have learned SEO, you had a problem, you didn't know what to do, and you had to go figure it out. Now, I'm making a bet here, but I bet you that most of you people sitting on this call haven't had a boss sitting telling you every step of every process along the way and taught you SEO like that. And I'll tell you why, because that's not how you learn SEO, right? Now, here's the thing. If you hire a person and you give them a narrow scope of responsibility, and they spend, like, let's say you hire someone who only does link building, and let's say they're like, you give them some process, you give them some ideas, that's okay, but you give them room to explore. And your focus is not do this process 100 times a day. Your process is get me 10 links a week or 100 links a month, or whatever your goal is from this person, right? And then let them work it out. Let them, like, you can support them a little bit, but the key thing is the way that all of you guys on this call, I know there's not too many, but the way you've learned, the way you've become good is from that position. Someone have given you a challenge, you've had to figure it out. And the reason why I know that so well is because that's how people learn. People don't learn just by sitting looking at a process. Now, sometimes you have very basic tasks that can definitely run through simple process flows. Like something like content writing can be a fairly good example where, you'll need a lot of content, need to follow a strict process. You're not necessarily looking for people to reinvent the wheel. That's okay. But if you're wanting to educate people who makes a difference in your business, you have to give them the ownership. You have to set them the end goal of what needs to be achieved, and you have to let them learn along the way.
Thank you. I've also met, you always talk, you and Matt Diggity and some other people about A-type people, that they only want to hire A-type people. Why these are that bad?
So again, I don't know most of you on this call, but I would make the assumption with the fact that you're showing up and wanting to learn more and become a better person, better SEO or whatever, you are probably someone who want to do something great. Now, the problem is, the point is you want A players like you. Like, you want people who is proactively going out, trying to learn, proactively trying to better themselves. That is what you want in a business. Now, in some businesses, you need some, let's call them foot soldiers or whatever, but you need people who just shows up every day, do their work, go home, and don't give a shit, right? Some businesses have processes like that. But fundamentally, if you want to build a solid company, particularly your first 4, 5, 6 hires, you're not necessarily looking for people who are experts, but you're looking for people who want to. You're looking for those people who don't give a shit if it takes 20 hours to do it, they'll do it. Even if they don't know how to do it, but they will find a way to do it, right? That's the kind of people you want to work with. And it's not a question of you want people working, X amount of hours every day. It's not about that, but it's about finding people who are willing to do what it takes to get the right results, even if they have to learn, even if they have to fail a couple of times and so on and so forth, right? And that is fundamentally A players, right? So you're looking, and sometimes you can grow A players, right? But again, I'll say this is down the road a little bit, but you can find great people. And I would say probably in my career, I've interviewed thousands of people, and I've probably had about 5 people that I've given a job offer before they've even left the job interview, right? Because they stand out so much. So, sorry, that was a good question here. Let me just see. So how do you recognize? So, right, that's a great question, and I have a couple answers. So the best answer is getting to know the people before you interview them. And what I mean with this is, again, as a SEO, you don't necessarily know a ton of people because you like sitting in front of the computer and not necessarily, a lot of SEOs are not super social, but the more people you know, the more likely you are to get to know someone that might be good. Now, when you're sitting judging people in an interview situation, that's one thing. But let's say you go to a SEO meetup and you meet someone who is maybe not very good at SEO, but it's someone that you like, oh, this is just like me. He's super eager and he's doing this and he's doing this and so on. If you suddenly then it's like, ooh, I got a new client, I need to do something else. Maybe I'll contact this guy and see if he'll be interested in working with me. So again, that's a small proportion, but you can honestly do yourself a big favor by building your network, right? And this is you hear a lot of business people say that, but your network is your net worth, and that is so true, right? Also when it comes to recruitment, like I can go and start a company with 100 amazing people tomorrow. Like if some brand come to me and says, we need to set up these teams, we need to have, all these different departments, like I can go do it tomorrow because I know a lot of amazing people in many, many different places all over the world, right? Because I spend a lot of time talking to people. I invest a lot of time and effort getting to know people, particularly people that I really connect with, particularly people who, have a great attitude, who want to do things. And fundamentally, some of the things that I look for is people who have a positive attitude, right? Like if people are always blaming everything and everyone else for stuff that happens in their life, that's not a good attitude. It's like, oh, I didn't get the job because, the interviewer was an asshole. No, you didn't get the job because you probably weren't the best candidate. Or even if you were the best candidate, you weren't capable of convincing the person interviewing you that you were the best candidate, right? So the thing is, great people have learned that they're responsible for the environment around them, right? So the best people you meet in the world is people who take 100% responsibility for what happens around them, and they don't blame others for stuff that happens, right? The same with SEOs. Like you can sit around, you can spend 6 months being angry at Google for doing a Google update, but that doesn't help you, right? What does help you is figuring out what do I need to do next to regain what I've lost, right? But if people spend way too much negative energy blaming other people and so on, that's generally a very bad sign, right? So the first thing to look for is people who take ownership. And I love asking people, for example, in an interview situation, who's the best boss you've ever had and who is not the worst, but who's the least good boss you've ever had. And if people just start being like, oh yeah, I had this boss, he was a total asshole, he didn't let me do my work. And if people are just super negative without taking any self-ownership over situations, again, that's a bad sign, right? You're wanting people, like people, everyone I've had bad boss, but I wouldn't say, oh, I couldn't do my job. I'd say, I could have done my job better if I had a boss that, had let me take more responsibility or let me test out more things or, hadn't micromanaged me and so on and so forth. But I wouldn't just like go on a total tangent, just telling everyone how horrible a boss it was and how I was totally not able to do anything because my boss was an asshole, right? So that's a few of the things to definitely look for initially when you're looking for people. But I mean, particularly in the SEO world and where you guys are, like go out to a lot of these meetups, meet other like-minded people, right? One of the best places for me, one of the places worldwide where I've met most amazing people is something called Toastmasters. And that's something that will scare the living shit out of most people. But it's all about public speaking. And it's a worldwide organization that have clubs in pretty much every country and every major city. And here's the thing. People who go to these is generally people who care about developing themselves. So they usually show up of their own will. They often pay out of their own pocket. They, instead of sitting at home watching TV or sitting in front of the computer, they show up and they want to become better human beings. And those things in themselves is something that's super, super valuable. And I've met so many amazing people. Now, it's called toastmasters.org. That's the website. And it's basically, I mean, the focus is basically public speaking and sort of learning leadership skills, right? That's what Toastmasters is about. It's generally relatively cheap anywhere to do it. But the people I've met, I mean, I've done it I've been to Toastmasters Club in more than 20 countries in the world, and the people I met, I mean, I'm in Vietnam right now, and I've already hired 3 people maybe from the Toastmaster Club that I've joined here. And again, it's because it's positive people. It's people who want to do things. It's people who are like, they don't just want to sit at home and watch TV, right? And the people who spend their life sitting at home watching TV and can't understand why they can't find a partner, or don't know why they're not getting that dream job by sitting staring at the latest reality TV, right? Again, that's not the people you want to hire.
So, for example, say we hire a rock star, someone really nice to work with. How do we motivate them to stay? And also, there was a good question from someone. Do you think giving profit share or even equity is a good way to motivate and retain employees? If yes, under which conditions would you do this?
Right. So profit share can help. However, in most cases, when you're hiring new people, they don't understand SEO well enough to actually understand what the profit share is and how to get it, right? So profit share for me would typically be something I would use it as a business owner if I was hiring a really good SEO, right? So if I run a business, like let's say I start a shop selling water bottles, and I hire a SEO and I say, Vlad, I want to hire you to do SEO for my water bottles, right? And I want to motivate you to do the best job, right? I want to pay you X amount a month, and then I want to give you a percentage of probably the revenue we make, so whatever, or it could be profit. That's what I want to do, right? Are you in, right? In a situation like that, where you're hiring someone that's already really good at what they do, that can make a ton of sense, right? What I typically do, though, in most cases, because in most cases that's not the type of people you hire. So I'm much more a fan of bonuses that are tied to performance. So let's say I hire a link builder, and I'll typically have a minimum performance. So let's say, just make it easy. Let's say the goal is to build 20 links every single month. That's my minimum expectation. However, if you manage to build 40 links, I'll give you a bonus. If you manage to build 60 links, I'll give you a bigger bonus. Obviously, within certain, like you need to have both quantity and quality requirements, right? But as long as they follow those general rules, if you give people bonuses, if you give people incentive to do more, you're putting yourself in a good place. Because here's what normally happens. When people have a goal of 20, they'll often get to 16, 17, 18, maybe 20 or 21. But if your goal is 20, you'll see very few people giving you 40. It's not because 40 isn't possible, but subconsciously human beings just stop, right? We're like, oh, okay, I hit my goal. I'm all good. I don't need to worry, right? Whereas the better goal, the better incentivization you have, the better results you can generally get. Now, there's a caveat to that. People are motivated by different things. It's very, very easy to think that everyone's motivated by money. Looking at the 4 faces I can see on this screen, I would say at least 3 of you are not primarily motivated by money, right? So also understanding that different people are motivated by different things is really, really important. So you generally have four types of personalities that I work with, and there's generally 4 motivational aspects, right? So for people who are super competitive, for people who are like, you all know people that, you know, they participate in every sport. When they lose for whatever reason, even if it's the first time they've done something, they get like super angry and so on. Those type of people are generally motivated by money and power, right? So money means a lot to them. Power, responsibility means a lot to them. Then you have this sort of typical salespeople who love talking and so on, and they're very often motivated by attention. They're the kind of people you want to go and clap their shoulder every day and say, hey, good work today, whatever they've done, right? And they're like, oh yeah, thanks boss, you know, I'm working really hard to make it happen and whatever. Then you have people that are more like it's called the mom or the uncle of the team, the one that's like, hey, is everyone okay? And, you know, everyone having a good time, and those kind of people. And typical like nurses, teachers type jobs. And those people are primarily motivated by the happiness of others. For those people, if you say, you know, if you hit this goal next month, I'll give you a bonus. 90%, 95% of those people will be like, I'm okay with my normal salary. I don't care, because their happiness, like and there's a lot of these people, 25% of the population generally, that aren't necessarily driven by money. Now they think they should be, because everyone around them tells them, oh, you should get more salary, or oh, you should do this, and you should get a promotion and all this sort of stuff. But many, many people are not looking for that, right? However, for these people, instead of giving them an individual bonus, if you do a team bonus and say, if the team hits this goal, everyone will get a bonus, they will light fire in their ass, because they don't want to be the reason why someone else is not getting their bonus, right? They don't care about getting the bonus themselves, but if it's a team bonus and they are the reason everyone else is not getting bonus, they do not want to be that person. Does that make sense?
Matt, but how do you deal with, for example, when you have different types of members in your team? I mean, you cannot go and motivate everybody differently. Now, what if you are the one that's, for example, motivated by money, or you're the mom or whatever? So let's say, and then all your team members, let's say you're the one that's motivated only by money, and then your team members are all of them like the uncles, like, oh, happiness of the team, but you're like, no, like let's get the dollars.
Fundamentally, yes, you can. Sometimes it's easier than others. If people are doing different roles, it's often easier. Obviously, if you have 5 people all doing link building, you need to reward them in a similar fashion, all right? But if you're one person doing link building, one person doing content, one person doing something else, you could have different types of bonuses for them. This was all about like motivations, right? So let me just cover the 4th type. So you have the 4th type that a lot of SEOs fall into this category. They are generally motivated by being right. And what I mean with that is they love stupid arguments. So if you're like, oh, you remember last year, the 4th of August when we did this thing? And I'm like, no, that was the 5th of August. And you end up having a 7-day argument. If it was the 4th or 5th of August, it doesn't matter the least. It makes no fucking difference. But these people want to be right. And the problem is often they want to be right more than they want to be effective, right? And if you would happen to know one of these people, you probably know how some relationships occasionally finish because you have stupid arguments about things that makes no difference. Here's the thing: if you're a business owner and you are that personality, you need to learn to focus more on effectiveness than being right. But that is like being right is actually one of the primary motivations of some people. So these people who love being right, they're often not particularly motivated by money, but they're more motivated. Like if you're like, oh, if you do really good, I'll buy you an additional screen so you can have 3 screens or 2 screens or whatever, and you can be better at your work. And they're like, oh, that sounds awesome. I want to be better. I want to. So these kind of people, they pride themselves on their knowledge, and they pride themselves on, they generally have a very high IQ because they can keep a lot of stuff in their head. They're very good at making complex decisions with a lot of data in their head. The problem again is they have all the stuff in their head, so it's different for other people to look at. But yeah, so that was the sort of the different motivations. And yes, you can, right? So here's the same thing with communication. So different people communicate differently. Again, the very competitive people, they're generally, I just need to communicate. I don't care if I phone you up or I send you an email. It just have to be quick and it have to work. Speed, right? Like be effective. You have the sort of sales people that are like, emails, yeah, if it's a funny joke, great, but else I don't read them, right? And they are all about talking face to face. If you meet most salespeople, if you go out and find super extroverted people, most of those will not read their emails, so they might read the first 2 lines and be like, oh, that's about work. That sounds boring, right? Now, here's the thing. Most people's like, well, if people can't read their emails, they can't work for me. Now, here's the problem. If you need people who are like that, you need to find ways to work with them. So I have people in my companies that if I send out a really important email, the next thing I do is I grab my phone and I call them and I explain to them in person what's in those emails, because I know if I want the best performance for them, that's what I have to do. And you can totally make the argument and say, well, it shouldn't be like that. And the reverse argument is, well, it is like that. Right. So again, you have the uncles and so on. They're kind of like, oh yeah, whatever works for you. I can read, I can write, I can take a phone call. They're happy. And then you have the SEO developer types of people who loves emails, and they love long emails with a lot of data, a lot of words, 17 attached spreadsheets and stuff like that. Most people, aka 75% of planet Earth, do not understand emails that are 4 pages long and have 17 attachments. They don't get them. Most people don't even read them. They don't look at them. Yeah.
So how do you go about hiring? Let's say, for example, you have all these different types of. So let's say you're the guy let's choose one of the types, the fast one, the money maker. Yeah. How do you choose your people in the team? Let's say you get one of these uncles, as you call them, or Andys, like.
Yeah. So what I tend to do is, it's often not necessarily one particular type, but I'm often looking for people who have one or the other. So let's say I need someone, let's just continue with link building. So if I need someone to do link building, I look at what is my priorities. Well, the first thing I'm looking for is I want a lot of links, right? I'm not so caring about how the hell they do it. I'm not so caring if they follow like exactly the process that I have in my head. I care that they get a lot of links. So for that type of job, my general assumption would be trying to find one of these competitive people who are, super driven and really want to deliver results and always want to beat the rankings and so on, because that's what they're really good at, right? So they're very, just very competitive, always want to beat each other and always want to do better, right? So that could be a good type of personality for something like that. Now, you can hire any of the personalities. You can hire someone who's super extroverted and salesperson. Now, he'll probably do link building differently. He'll probably go to Google, finds a website and say, hey, I'm going to call them. And then he calls up the company like no other SEOs do and say, hey, I noticed you have this cool website about dog farms in Nebraska or whatever. I have this really cool website over here. Would you mind giving me a link? That would be freaking awesome. Okay, yeah, that sounds awesome. You just do like this and then blah, 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 right? Now, the reason why no one does this is because this is the opposite personality of most SEOs, right? Now, I can tell you if you actually start phoning up people and building real relationships, you can get a lot of great links. Right. So again, the different personalities for different things, and you can test different things and so on. Now, if you take someone who's good at phoning up people and you get them to sit and copy paste email addresses and data and stuff, they will fail. Right. So again, like from my point of view, it's about figuring out who's a good fit for this. Now, the sort of typical SEO, very detail oriented people can also be good for it. The challenge you often have for them when it comes to link building is they're so focused on the process. They're so focused on, yep, I have to find the emails, I have to find the sites, then I have to send them this message, then I have to do this thing. So they're like, typically like SEOs, they're much more focused on the process than they're focused on the results. And when it comes to link building, I want results. Right now, totally different. If you have someone doing like audits or some unpaid stuff, I'm very, very meticulous on the process itself. It's not just about, yeah, check all the boxes and, you know, get 80% done. Okay. Like forget to do the internal links and stuff. That doesn't work. Right. So for those kind of jobs, you definitely need detail oriented people. And again, like I would, from an interview standpoint, like I would give them some test tasks. I would see how they work through it and so on. So yeah, different roles from different type of jobs. Again, like I don't just hire one person for, like, I don't have 15 link builders that are all the same personality type, right? Because again, you want to have different strengths to play on and so on. But at least understanding, like the biggest issue is actually when you hire the opposite of what you need, right? So if you hire someone who's great with spreadsheet and you hire someone so often the problem you have is that these people who are super extroverted, salesy people, they're very good at selling themselves. They're very good at sounding amazing until the day they start the job. And then you realize that, yeah, they probably aren't those people.
I mean, now that you've said all of these things, right, and let's go, I'd go for an interview tomorrow and I get my candidate and I will interview her or him. Now I have all of your ideas, but I still don't know, like, I know what you look, I know you look for something. So you give them tests, like, I'm going to watch them do something, but now I don't know what to look out for. So what do I give them? Some personality test, or what do I do?
You could, I mean, it's a lot of talk. So I think usually my course is about, just on this is a couple of hours, right? So it's a lot of information, but just high level, what you're looking for is very simple behaviors. So the competitive people are generally people who have above average volume of voice. Sometimes that can be a little bit difficult to hear, but it's generally assertive people, right? Which means they're happy to interrupt you. So simple things like if you interrupt someone while they're speaking, you can very easily see, do they stop talking or do they continue talking, right? If they continue talking, they're generally assertive, and that means they're generally either the sort of very driven people or the salesy type of people who love talking. If they stop talking, they're the other two personalities, right? If the amount of smiling people do. So if you look at this call and if you go back and look at our recording, you'll probably see that the 5 of us sitting here with our screen on, in average, smile quite significantly less than average. And that's because we are generally in either the sort of competitive segment or we're in the detail-oriented, nerdy Excel sheet segment, if you will. And that it is that simple. So if you look at human beings and look at if they smile above or below average, that will basically tell you which of those segments they belong to, right? So generally people who smile less than average focus more on tasks, and people who smile more than average focus more on people, right? So if you meet someone face to face, the two main things is listen to their volume of voice if it's below or above average, and look at the amount of smiling they do. Like some people have learned to smile when they meet someone else, but if you just sit and observe them, and if you look at people walking down the street, if you make eye contact with someone and they naturally smile when you do it, it's usually because they're either sort of salesy people or uncle nurse type personality, and if they don't smile, it's usually because they're on the other side. So like there's some very, very simple behaviors that you can look at to basically get those behaviors, right? Yeah, I think that was a very short version.
There is a thing that Alexandra just wrote it in the chat, like Eastern European people don't smile much. It's like a
because it's very hard to live in Ukraine. So we don't smile at all. We have very hard life.
There's nothing to be happy about, yeah.
So I've lived in Eastern Europe. I spent a lot of time in Bulgaria, Romania, etc. And everything else being equal, there's definitely people who smile a lot more than average, and there's people who smile a lot less than average. So if you compare them to an American, yes, they might not be smiling so much, but I can promise you I've met plenty of Ukrainians that smile nonstop, right? Again, the easy ones are the extremes. So you all know people that never smiles, and you all know people that you feel that person just smiles a lot, right?
I have a question about something you said before. There was a thing you said, like, let's take the example of link building, right? So you said, like, this person is looking at 20 links a month. I mean, let's say in this example, these are all paid links, right? So then you have the motivation, quality, quantity, whatnot. But I mean, at a certain point, you will have to go, you will have to increase the KPIs, right? So, but there's also a point where, you know, like, how do you find out the optimal KPI? And it's not the maximum where a person will be overworked and they will never actually reach the bonus, because like many business owners go like, oh, you did 20, oh, let's do 30. You did 30, oh, let's go 40. And then it just keeps on increasing. And I once landed in a company where the KPI was so high, it was unreal. Like, you cannot, like, you have to work weekends and nights just to reach it, and then not even be able to reach a bonus. It was just like the, oh, survive in the company thing. And there was I mean, now they don't do it anymore, but at that time when I got in there, you know, I was like the test project.
Okay. Let me be the asshole here then. So what they're doing in principle is the right way. That the challenge is they haven't raised the goal enough. Right. So the problem is most people, they keep increasing the goal with a couple of percent. And the problem is when you keep increasing the goal a little bit, what happens is people do the same thing they've done previously. They just work a little bit longer or make it a little bit more effective or whatever. If I gave you a challenge to go and get me 100 links next month, could you do it? Right. Could you get me 1,000?
I mean, I'll try, but that's hard. Low quality, I can do it, but it's going to be lacking quality.
Right. So could you get me 1,000 links that are minimum DR20?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Right. Could you get me 10,000 links next month that are minimum DR20?
I mean, with some black hat SEO, possibly.
Right. No, but the whole thing here is what I've only asked you is about possibility. Mm-hmm. You haven't asked about resources. Mm-hmm. Like if you have $10 million to go buy them, mm-hmm. you probably can.
Yeah.
Right. So the whole thing here about targets, when you're working with employees, and this is one of the problems with sort of very detail-oriented people. We're very realistic, right? We're very trying to like, what's realistic to do? But the whole thing here is when you want people to do amazing stuff, that the most amazing things you have done in your life is because people have set an expectation that you thought was way over what you could do, and you've done it anyway. Right. So the whole point here is that the way you get people to deliver extreme performance, like someone like Elon Musk is amazing at this thing. Like he likes going on TV and saying, yeah, 12 months from now, we'll have a rocket going to Mars. And then he calls up his team and it's like, guys, I've just told the world we have a rocket going to Mars in 12 months, right? We better get started. Right. And everyone's like, oh, that's not possible. That's not possible. We can't do it. He's like, well, we have to. Right. And yeah, it maybe takes 13 or 14 months or whatever. That's not the point. The point is the way you get exceptional performance from people is make them think different. So the thing is, every time you improve your target by 2%, you get the same that you've always done. People keep doing the same things. But the whole point is that if you want to get significantly better, if you want to see like those kind of results, you need to do things even better. And the way you make people think much better, the way you make people do things differently and really change how they do things is by pushing them significantly. All right. So I totally get what you're saying. And there's obviously always limits for everything. And there's limits in budgets and things like that. But fundamentally, and here's a big thing. In most companies, the problem is they raise the bar for everyone at the same level at the same time. And that is a horrible way to manage people. Because if you have one person who can deliver a target in 2 days, and it takes someone else a month, those two people should not have the same target, right? So basically the way, like I always operate with a minimum expectation, but majority of the people working for me will have higher targets than that, right? Because I know they can do better. They have shown they can do better. And it's not, this is not about unfair. Everyone's like, oh, but that's unfair if I have to do more than this. No, right? Here's the thing. If you work for me, I want you to become the best person you can become, both because it helps me, but also because it helps you. The more you learn, the more you can perform, the better you can do it. The better your career is going to be if you work for someone else, the better your business is going to be if you work for yourself, and generally the better future you will have, right? So that's my mindset, and that's generally how I try and operate.
I have one question, just one question. I really like that you told, but it's very hard to find people to delegate some of my tasks. Okay, and when I find some people which I want to delegate some of my job, it's hard. Okay, I have some instructions, I have some workflow, but unfortunately, it's very hard to find right people because you start to show them how to do this process, and they say okay, and after some time they tell me, oh, I don't understand. And the main problem for me for now is that I have workflow, I have instructions, I have mindset, but I just don't find right people, because every time when I show them how to do something, they just tell me, oh, it's very hard. So these people are very lazy, and I don't know. I try to propose them some bonuses, some profits. I propose them to increase their salary, and that doesn't work. The problem is to find right people. So okay, I understand and I agree with you how to find those people.
Let me go around it in two ways. The first way is when you're doing things the way you're doing, you want to do it 3 steps. You want to show them how to do, and then you want to watch them how to do it. Like watch them do it. This is the step most people fail at. And then you want them to do it and verify the outcome. So the thing is, most people show someone how to do something and then they say, go do it, without actually watching the person do it, right? So the best thing, when you're doing it that way, when you're basically training one process at a time, it's not very motivating to learn that way, but anyhow, if that's the way you're doing it, that is the best way to do it. Because here's the thing, when people are sitting doing it, if they're unsure, if there's something they don't understand, you can help them do it. Well, even if you're remotely, Alicia, you can do exactly what we're doing here. You can do a Zoom call, you can get them to share their screen, and you can sit them to do that. So you can definitely still do that, no problem. The alternative, I mean, occasionally I've given people a task and I've said, do this thing 10 times, and I want you to, use Loom and record it so that I can actually sit and see what you've been doing. So I see but it's much better like helping people directly online, because if you're sitting watching them and you can see there's something, the problem is if they make mistakes, if you just look at the output and you don't understand what made them make the mistake, then it's much, much harder to go back and try and figure out what was wrong. Whereas if you show them how to do it and then you let them do it while you're watching, you can see what goes wrong, and you can then say, why did you put this thing here? Like what made you do that, right? And you can understand what it is they misunderstood, and then you can correct them then, and then they hopefully get that in the future, right? So
yeah, but anyway, those lazy people, for me, I need them for now, because I need to delegate some tasks, but I will fire them. Fire? Yes.
right.
No. Yeah.
Right.
But I will fire them.
Don't hire lazy people.
Yes, but I need people. I need any people, and I need to delegate in any way. But
No, I get it, right? So I understand what you're saying, and totally. There's a lot of situations where you're in this situation, right? But fundamentally, it's the wrong people to some extent. I would also say it's probably not the most. Right. Here's two ways I can give tasks. Right. I can say, Alexandra, I have this process. Let me show you how to do it, and then you show me how you do it, and then you keep doing it. That's the typical way SEOs do things, right?
Yes.
Now here's a different way. Say, Alexandra, I love how detail-oriented you are. We have this process about how to do citations. And I am super confident that with your detail-oriented skill set and the way you always get stuff right, that you can own this thing. So I really need some help here. And I would love if you could become our citation champion, right? I will show you how it's done, and I'll show you some example of how it's done, and I can see how you do it. But I want you to own this thing. I want you to be responsible to make sure that we deliver all our citations every single month. Now, the difference between those two approaches,
I understand,
is worlds apart, right? And what I was saying earlier, I'm not joking. I will bet you that the way you learned SEO was not just someone sitting down showing you processes, right? You would not have gotten to where you are today if someone had just sit down with you and say, okay, watch me do it. Now you do it when I watch, and then you keep doing it. Like if you had been taught that way, you would not have been where you are today. Now, once in a while, 1 out of 1,000 people turn around and say that was how I was trained, but it is very rarely how people become good, right? So the way people become good is feeling the trust, feeling the ownership, you communicating why is it you want the person to do it. And even if you're hiring a new person, you're like, I want to hire you because, I think you're amazing at delivering results. You're super competitive. And I know that if I give you a goal, like you can do it, right? I want you to be responsible for this link building. I understand it's a totally new thing for you. I'll teach you some of the things, but there'll be plenty of opportunity for you to also go and look at other methods. There's millions of methods to do this thing. But that's why I want to hire you. And I want you to be responsible for this thing. So, again, everything else being equal, most people in most businesses that grow is often because they often call it lazy bosses. It's like, oh yeah, I was doing everything. My boss never did anything. And the whole point is your boss did. Your boss taught you how to do everything so that you could do everything, and that he or she could do the boss stuff that he was supposed to do, right? So a lot of the time, and this is difficult, like with typical SEO mindset, we are so focused on tasks, we're so focused on steps, and we're not very good at explaining vision to people. We're not very good at motivating them by, like explaining ownership to them, by explaining our vision and being like, I want you to own this thing. I want you to, yeah. So, and again, even if you hire people who are maybe not the best, but even if they're a couple of steps below, if you do this the right way, they can grow and they can become very good, right?
So the main idea, not to show how to do by main steps. The main idea is that to show the person that he is competitive to do this task, and to give him motivation that he will probably can deal with it.
The main idea is to make people excited, right? Again, if I call you up and I say, hey, Alexandra, I have this assignment with some spreadsheets where I need to copy paste a lot of data. Does that excite you?
No.
Now, would you do it? If I'm your boss, you would probably do it if I asked you to anyway, but it doesn't excite you. Oh, well, okay, fair enough. Good. But the whole point is it doesn't excite you, right? And the problem is the way, with your personality, the way you're giving people work and task, I'm pretty confident that it's done in a way that doesn't excite them. They are not like, oh yeah, I had my first job at the day at this job, and I'm so excited because I got this, and I was asked to take care of this thing, and so on, right? You want to make people excited, right? So you want to, like, if you think back of how your previous bosses have given you ownership, given you responsibility, and said, I don't know this SEO thing, can you go figure it out? And you're like, I don't know it either, but I'll try, right? So, like, and this actually, it's really good to practice how you do this with things you don't know. So, for example, let's say you've never done YouTube SEO, and you suddenly get a job saying, now we need to do YouTube SEO. So if you go to one of your staff members and you say, hey, we've gotten this new assignment, you're great at SEO, and you like videos or whatever, you're an amazing human being. I need someone that I can trust to go figure out this YouTube SEO thing, right? It's really, really important for our company that we learn how to do this, and we have someone who's great at doing it. Do you want the responsibility? Are you open to go do this thing? Right? That makes people excited. That makes people want to do it instead of, oh, I have to do it, right? Oh, this is boring. Whereas when people feel ownership, when they feel responsibility, the way they behave, the way they respond to that is so, so different.
Matt, you are having